Okay, friends, the goal of this new video series over the next semester is going to be me trying to get everything up here out into a way that's tangible and makes sense for you to be able to use in your classrooms. So I have been running a D-Streamed physics program in my school for a semester now, and I'm going to be running it again this semester. And as I go and rebuild my course into 75-minute blocks, I figured I would take the learnings that I've had in thinking classrooms and share it with you all. And so today's video is going to kind of establish, like, where do we start? How do we start even with the thinking classroom? And it's kind of the same practice that you would use for any classroom. So for a thinking classroom, do not throw out everything you've ever done if you have taught a course before, because you are going to be able to use some of that material and bring it into your classroom. And so what you're going to do is you're going to get your timetable from your administrator. You're going to find out what you're teaching. In some cases, you'll be lucky and you've taught that before, so you have something to go with. If you're in a case where you've never taught it before, then this is kind of where you're going to start. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab resources. So that means Googling that course code in Google. It actually is a treasure trove of information, and you're going to grab course resources. I know for me, I had a couple of key websites that I kept returning back to again. So I would bookmark them, or you could start a Google Doc with those websites, or start a Google Drive folder with like course code and then say other teacher resources as a folder and just start dumping stuff in. You can ask your colleagues at your school if they've taught it before and grab that stuff, pop it into this folder, and basically you're just collecting. Don't spend a ton of time going through everything in detail. I do like to take a quick glance at stuff to kind of see, like, what is their like interests, what did they focus on, that kind of stuff. Because I think that after you've read the curriculum document, it's not necessarily clear. There's a lot of wiggle room. And so I like to kind of calibrate. How deep did people go into? I mean, like in grade 11, we talk about force of gravity. That is a really broad topic. And so how far are people going? How deep are people going? What kind of things are they using to assess? So I'll take kind of a peek at what people are doing, but not do a really concentrated deep dive. I'm trying to just do like overall big picture right now. I'm also going to grab a textbook if there's a course with a textbook for you. I have taught courses without textbooks, and they're a little bit harder because it's kind of hard to figure out where the goalposts or the benchmarks are. But I know that for me, I'm going to grab those textbooks and flip immediately to like the unit summary guides or the end of chapter questions. And I'm going to get a feel for the types of questions ideally I'd like my students to be able to answer. Now, obviously, this is kind of biased towards that textbook publisher. You don't necessarily know if that's exactly where you want to land. But for me, I think it's a good idea just to kind of calibrate and figure out, like, what's the point of this course? Where are we trying to go? What are the overarching themes? What do I want my students to be able to do coming out of the course? And then the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask other teachers that have taught it before for their pressure points. I think in science, we're really good about giving students multiple opportunities to learn in different ways. I mean, we touch on like virtual simulations or like sift and sorts, ranking tasks, card sorts, like matching, that kind of visual representation. We're really good at auditory, showing videos, doing lessons, talking through things. We're really good about doing the hands-on kinesthetic stuff with your like labs and your investigations and your demos. And I know for me, if I know there's a pressure point for a student, so say there's a concept that they just really struggle with and have a hard time, I'm going to make sure we do all of those things for that topic. Other topics, we can do maybe one or two of them. You can give other opportunities for them to practice if they need more. But for those pressure point items, I'm going to do all of my options. I'm going to do labs. I'm going to do demos. I'm going to do online simulations. I'm going to do ranking, sorting tasks, and consolidation, big picture stuff. So you want to make sure you have all of those things kind of ready to go. So you're going to have this like just huge collection of information right now. You got everything all together. And then what you're going to do is your next phase then is you're going to start thinking about, like, okay, there's 4 units, about 5 months of class, and you're in a semester. So I'm going to do roughly 20. I don't want to lock myself in right now, because I think the key thing is to make sure you're like establishing flexibility into your program to really meet the needs of your learners in front of you. The other thing I know with backwards design, they often say, like, start with your summative in mind. And in science, traditionally, that's been the final exam. I don't know if that's where we want to be anymore. After reading through things like grading for equity and some of those things, I don't know if that's exactly where we want to land. I don't know if we want to be doing just a final exam, traditional pencil and paper thing anymore, because I don't know if that's equitable or really celebrates the learning of that room. And so we'll talk about summatives later. And I know they say design it first, but for me, I'm going to put that in May. That's May problem, and I'm going to deal with course right now. And now I'm going to focus on community building, because that first week is all about community. So check out my next video on community building.